It's interesting as I look at this photo or illustration, the word optical has little pinprints of openings in it. There's the little pieces where there's openings in, like the O and the P and those kinds of things. And so that tells me that even with the word optical, which blocks so much of the rest of the image, there's always a way. There's always a way to open and get to see from that point of view. The word illusion brings to mind to me something that's not real, but I love the nature that's there. And so, you kind of have both of these playing on the idea that optical seems for most of us to say, oh, that's the reality, and yet it's blocking something. And yet illusion opens up the image to see something more. And so it's an interesting in contrast. And where is reality?
Good question.
And which one is more real than the other? And it will depend on who's looking at it.
Yes.
In this case. And to be able for all of us to see both is so critically important.
And when you can see both, then you're always in choice.
Yes. Yes. And it is a choice to which we see. And when we see which one.
And when we choose to see one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
is
God.
there someone else queued up there?
Yeah, Dan Silverberg is queued up.
Okay.
Yeah, so Janet, for me, what this is all about is what I call perceptual intelligence. And there's another frame that if you go on YouTube of the people passing the basketball and the bear shows up, and most people never see the bear. And our perceptual intelligence, I sort of look at creatively as a photographer. If you're playing with a normal lens, you only get to see so much. But if you're playing with a wide angle lens, you get to see a much larger picture. And so in my view of the world, my perceptual intelligence is formed by my attachment, it's formed by trauma, it's formed by inner child, it's formed by, a host of mentors and different ways of looking at the world. And do I want to look at it this way? Do I want to look at it straight on? And it's kind of like you take a date to the movie and you go for coffee, and at the end, what's the scene that you loved? And you're like, were we at the same movie? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So it's our perceptual, it's how we view the world informed by how we've grown up in the world. And it's almost to me a kaleidoscope. And if I turn it this way, I'll see one thing. And if I turn it that way, I'll see something else. And really the question for me then, in my own experience, is to what extent can I listen curiously without bringing my own bias, ready to answer what the question is before the person even speaks.
Hmm.
So yeah, listening is so important. And one thing that occurs to me, what I'm observing these days, is that everybody is talking and nobody is listening. Anybody else queued up? Anybody else want to?
Susan Shaw has her mic open, and so does Bob and Amit Banerjee. Susan, you want to? She's in Front Royal, Virginia. You want to? No, she's muted again. You want to talk? No. Okay. Let's call on Bob Hopkins. Bob, you always have some interesting observations, and you got a minute with you.
She mentioned listening, and that's what I was thinking. I was going to talk about. Where does audio fit in here? If I listen to something, whether it be song or whether it be music or whether it be somebody's voice, would I see something different? And I learned in college that there was a man by the name of Marshall McLuhan, that when the invention of television came and people could see what they heard, it changed totally the perception and the understanding of the communication process. And when I teach my 14-year-olds, which I had today, and in another class I had a 70-year-old, I'm wondering as I'm talking to them, what are they hearing? Are they hearing the same thing? Just because I'm talking and an old man, are they seeing and hearing one thing as opposed to what the old man who didn't have television heard and mainly was trained to listen? I mean, to hear or see as opposed, yeah, to see as opposed to hear.
Fascinating.